After decades of putting everyone else first, this is your time to shine. Welcome to the Sass and Soul podcast, where brilliant women just like you are finally putting themselves at the top of their to-do list. You are ready to reawaken your dormant dreams, take center stage, and unleash your full creative voice. I'm Cindy Kennedy, a seasoned life and leadership coach, global speaker, yogi, and the founder of the Center for Sass and Soul. I'm here to accompany you on your quest to live a wildly purposeful and pleasurable life. After all, success is personal. It's not about following a script, but answering the calling of your soul. So get ready to join me and my global friends as we explore how to reclaim our sass and lead from our soul. Welcome back, sassy, soulful ones. I have an episode that I want you to take straight into your heart and into your body, because I'm talking about something that impacts all women when it comes to inhibiting our ability to truly be visible, to stand up and stand out, and to be fully self-expressed. And what is that? Believe it or not, even to this day, it remains to be body image. Now, I started looking at different statistics to bring to the episode today. And even though I had a whole list of them, they all say the same thing that we know. We know for a fact that when we are self-conscious about our bodies, we are less likely to want to be visible. And we're less likely to take a risk. We're less likely to want to share our hearts with other people. Why? Because we are withdrawn. Now, if you listened to the previous episode when I interviewed my beautiful, dear bestie, Krista Kuyat, also known as Raya, we talked a little bit about each of our journeys coming back to our own bodies. But I want to share a little bit today because I want you to understand part of my story in the hopes that it's going to inspire you to come deeper into your own body love journey. Even if you are rocking it out in the world, if there's any part of you that still has this residue of self-consciousness around your body and you're noticing it impacting you, if you lean into the healing of it, I promise you more joy and more success and more ease is going to flood into your life. So let me take you back a little ways. So I grew up in a household where we were all very physically active. We were all athletes. My dad was, my brother was, I was. My mom was kind of the musician, and she was always willing to go hiking with dad and cycling with dad. But I remember even at a young age, my mom started going on diets. And she was not a big woman, but I just remember she was on Weight Watchers, or she'd go to the Jenny Craig, I felt like she was always on a diet. And there was this hyper vigilance around what her body looked like. And I remember my dad taking me aside when I was about grade 6 and saying to me, Cindy, you've got a really healthy body, and I really hope that you don't gain weight when you're older. And he meant that from a loving place, seeing mom go up and down, even though he would always express how beautiful she was to him. But I also went through a stage where my older brother, being 5 years older, he certainly imprinted into my younger brain that I was not attractive, that I was fat, that I was ugly. And I remember that just really seeping into my head. And we, spiral forward into high school. Again, being an athlete, I was very identified with being physically active. we get into the volleyball team. I get onto the volleyball team. And what are we asked to wear? We're asked to wear these bum hugger bikini shorts for indoor volleyball. And this is a very high athletic competing school. And I remember thinking, I have to run around with my ass hanging out as an athlete. You've got to be kidding me. And I was a setter. And so what I would always do as a setter, you're always pretty low key anyways, like meaning you're bent down low because you're trying to get under the ball to set all and set up all your spikers. And even when there was a whistle blown or some, a substitute was coming in, I stayed bent, like literally bent at the knees the whole time. Why? Because I thought I looked thinner and leaner. We spiral ahead another year, and I am starting to become really consumed with what my body looks like. And I've really started to identify myself as a big woman, a large woman, and a very unattractive woman. So much so that there was a little bit of money that came through when my grandma had passed away a few years earlier, just a little bit. And I told my mom and dad that I wanted to go to fat camp. Oh yes, there was an article I saw in some teen magazine of this American camp somewhere in New York State. It was called Camp Shane. We all called it Camp Shame. And I wanted to go. And I remember them being like really supportive, like if that's what you wanted to do. But I was like, you've got to keep it secret from my brother. I didn't want my friends to know. Like, I did not want them to know. Because by that time, none of my friends had really seen me in bathing suits. I started wearing like really baggy clothes. And not that it matters what size I was, because it was more what I was thinking. But externally, I was not a big girl. But my head started identifying with it. And sure enough, I started gaining some weight through hormones and puberty, but also because I was in fear mode. I was in fear mode about what my body looked like, fear mode of becoming a teenager and having crushes on people, but not really wanting boys to get close enough to even possibly touch me. And so I went to Camp Shane, and guess what? I got laughed at Camp Shane for even being at Camp Shane because I wasn't even big enough. So all of this hyper visual orientation of what I look like was a big part of my teenage years. And I remember how much I wanted to break free because it didn't feel like me. I mean, it got so bad to a point where I believe it was in grade 9. I was about 14 or 15. I pretended to fall down the stairs to not go to school that day. Now, I had great friends. I did well in school. Like, I had a great support group. But deep inside me, I really bought into the belief that I was fat, that I was ugly, and there was a huge amount of shame around that. And it didn't feel like me. I remember feeling like I was trapped in somebody else's body. So when I got into my 20s, and I actually mentioned that even in the last episode with Raya, that going to Africa was really pivotal for me because it was a place where I was able to break out of the identity I had back in my hometown growing up. And being around totally different people, connecting with the African people and their joy of dancing and community, and talking to all these different people from all around the world, and almost seeing myself mirrored back from them in such a different way, like reminding me of my adventurous self, reminding me of the joy that I bring to others, reminding me of my sense of humor. And just being free of how I saw myself as well back there. That was a pivotal moment when I walked into the salt pans and really felt this deep sense of love start to wash over me for myself. Because what I've realized on this body love journey is that it really had nothing to do with my body and everything to do with love, self-love. So then we spiral forward a few years. I'm now living in Vancouver. And I joined this short coaching program through the film industry. And it was about setting a goal and working towards it. But on week 3 of this coaching program, we were asked to choose an outrageous act. I mean, that could be anything, anything. And the moment they said that, I knew exactly what would be outrageous for me. In fact, it was so outrageous that I wanted to vomit in that moment. And I'm not sure about you, but when I get this queasy feeling in my stomach and I know it's meaningful for me, I know that that's exactly what I'm supposed to do, even if the rest of me just wants to run the other way and hide. And I only had 5 days to do this act. Somehow I managed to figure out how to do this, and I found myself 5 days later, one gray Vancouver rainy morning, in a stranger's bathroom. And I'd just broken up with this guy that I'd been dating the night before. So even though I broke off, I was still raw. I was still tired. I didn't even think to put makeup on. And I'm in this robe and I see all these clothes on the ground. And I'm thinking, wait a second, what am I doing here? What am I doing again? But the clothes on the floor were mine. And suddenly there's this knock at the door and I hear the stranger's voice saying, Cindy, we're ready for you. And suddenly it hit me that, oh dear God, I'm the one that got myself into this. Me and only me. And I almost had this look like in the mirror with myself of like, how dare you do this to yourself? And I just took the biggest breath of courage and I turned around, I opened the door and I didn't run, but I walked into the studio. And it was this beautiful high ceiling studio with these gorgeous windows on one side. You could see the North Shore Mountains. And on the other 2 sides of the room were strangers, a very large distance away from me. And in the middle of the room, there was this white, fluffy rug with one chair, which obviously was my spot. I shuffled over there so insecurely and stood on this little white fluffy rug. And nobody said anything. Like, it was silence. There's no one there to like warm up the situation. It was silence. And I remember looking around going, so this is a really beautiful studio. Like, I was just making crap up to try to like bridge something, to try to go, gosh, Cindy, you're about to do something so incredibly outrageous. And finally, one of the people there said, when you're ready, and they're all waiting, looking at me expectantly. And I know what I need to do. I'm about to do my outrageous act. And I open up my robe and I drop it. And I signed myself up to be a nude model for a live drawing class, not just for 15 minutes, not just for half an hour, but for 2 hours. For 2 hours, I was going to stand buck naked in all my glory and have all these people staring at me, sketching the very edges of my body that I was so ashamed of. And they said, well, the first time, just, we're going to do 5 seconds and you'll do a pose and then we'll graduate to a 20-second pose and then a 1 minute, 2 minute, and eventually we'll do a couple 20-minute poses. And before I could even ask any questions, they said, okay, pose. Now, I didn't think this part through. I don't know how to pose. Have you done some modeling? I haven't. I've never especially done it naked. And so suddenly my first pose, I think I just thrust my hip out, put one hand on my hip, but I noticed that my eyes were cast down. And I had to hold that pose for about 10 or 20 seconds. And that whole time, those 10, 20 seconds felt so long because it felt so wrong to be looking down in one of the most powerful choices I was making. And in that moment, I told myself, for the rest of this 2-hour bloody choice of mine, I'm going to be proud and I'm going to be looking up or looking people in the eye. I am not going to look down and look ashamed. So pose again. I probably just struck out the other hip and the other arm. But damn it, I looked up. I looked up. And then we progressed to 1 minute. It was the weirdest situation because I was in this flight or fight mode with myself at first, but it was so quiet and silent, except for the sketching of their pencils on the paper, that my breath slowed down and I slowly stopped thinking of what they saw, and I just kind of came into being in my body. I do remember when they said next one, I sat down on the chair and I was so happy to like cover at least one of my private parts. That felt like quite joyous for me. But in that pose, I knew what the next one was going to be. And it was the one that was my biggest shame. It was the biggest shame. And they said next, like first 20-minute pose, I stood up and I whipped myself around, meaning I shared my like bodacious rump with them. All they saw was my bare ass. And I remember looking at the wall in front of me because there was nobody, in front of my face. They're just behind me looking at my butt. And literally to the wall, I was going, oh my God, 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 oh my God. Like over and over and over. Like, I can't believe I'm friggin' doing this. But when you expose yourself like that and there's nowhere to run, things melt away. They melt away. So much so that the final pose they asked me to do, I found myself lying on this white, fluffy carpet. And guess what? I fell asleep. I fell asleep. And because this is my podcast, I'm going to tell you a little inside secret. I did not lay down in the most private way. So what I'm saying is there's a certain angle that they all captured and they drew that I was not expecting. But the good thing is I didn't know it in the moment. But can you believe it? I fell asleep. I was just with myself and the body, and people were doing what they were doing. But guess when it really hit me? When I was driving home. The group took all of their drawings and they gave them to me. You didn't think I was going to leave them behind, did you? But I'm driving home and it's now dark in Vancouver. And I stop at a red light. And it gives me a chance to just gaze over at the passenger seat beside me. And all of my sketches were just kind of spread out on that seat. And the street light shone in. And so it kind of highlighted a couple of the top sketches. And I remember looking at them and suddenly it hit me. And I just started crying, like the tears were pouring down my face. And what went through me was, I'm beautiful. Like, I am so beautiful. And the beauty wasn't captured on the etches on the paper. The beauty was in the courage that it took to do that. And I remember the very next thought that went through my mind was, what other beauty lays beyond our fears? What other gifts do I have, do others have that live beyond their fears? And that's what led me into the work that I do today. And I share this with you because you too have either been on a journey or on the journey of embracing your body. When we stop looking at our bodies and we start getting out there in life, the love that you have for yourself, the felt feeling of your own courage usurps everything, and the rest of it melts away. So much so that Krista and I did a boudoir photo shoot. So much so, I created my first ever YouTube channel like 12 years ago. And the first thing I did on that one is I got in a bathing suit on a beach, did a video, and turned around and talked about it. Your body is precious and it's magnificent, and you are so much more than that. You are courage. You are innate beauty. And I ask you just right now to reflect. How does your relationship right now support your success, support your joy, support your self-expression? Because it's a journey worth looking at, and it is 100% a journey worth going on. And as you know now, you are not alone. You too can be free to embrace yourself as I do. And I have my moments, and they're just moments. But the rest of the time, I'm shaking what my mama gave me in all its form for exactly where it is right now. And being so damn grateful that I'm here and have a chance to live in life. So from my heart to yours, Sassy Soulful One, please love yourself. Reach out if you need support. I'm here because we're doing this together. Lots of love, and I cannot wait to connect with you in our next episode. See you soon. Remember, you are more powerful than you know. So live with sass and lead from your soul, and I will see you next time.